Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. People say marriages don't collapse overnight. They rot quietly, under smiles, daily routines, and "I love you" said without looking each other in the eyes. I didn't see it happening at first. How could I? Every morning felt the same. I'd wake up before sunrise, brew coffee, kiss Melissa's forehead, and head to work before traffic locked the city. She'd still be half asleep, her hand reaching for her phone before my kiss even landed. Notifications meant more to her than affection did. Back then, I believed we were just tired, two people chasing stability in a world that never stopped moving. I worked 12-hour shifts repairing heating units, while she managed marketing campaigns downtown. I thought the long hours were building our future, but I didn't realize she was already building a new life behind my back. At first, the signs were small. Her perfume changed, sweeter, heavier. She started wearing heels to team meetings she used to attend in sneakers. I'd ask about her day, and she'd shrug, saying, same old, then rush to her phone with a faint smile. It's strange how love makes you blind until pain opens your eyes. One night, around 11, I came home early from a job site. Her car was in the driveway, but the lights were off. Inside, the air smelled faintly of cologne I didn't own. When I called her name, she came out of the guest room, startled, hair messy, eyes wide. She said she'd fallen asleep watching a movie. I wanted to believe her, but something deep inside whispered that the woman standing in front of me wasn't the same one I married. A few weeks later, she started talking about needing space. Said she was stressed, burned out, that maybe we should spend a little time apart to rediscover ourselves. I tried to fix things. Date nights, flowers, weekend trips. But every effort landed flat. She smiled politely, thanked me, then turned away. It wasn't distance she needed. It was freedom. The day she said, "Let's just stay friends for now, no pressure," it almost sounded gentle. Almost. Her tone was calm, but her eyes, cold, detached, told me the truth. She'd already left emotionally long before those words reached my ears. Still, I nodded, said, "If that's what you need." And just like that, 7 years of love turned into a polite handshake between two strangers sharing memories neither wanted anymore. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Melissa kept the house, the car, the dog, everything we'd built together. But that wasn't what hurt the most. What broke me was how easily she carried on. New hair, new clothes, and soon new company. Her best friend Julia would still text me sometimes, asking if I was okay. I appreciated her kindness. She had always been more real than the circle of polished, superficial people Melissa surrounded herself with. Then one night, scrolling through social media, I saw it. A tag photo at a rooftop bar. Melissa laughing beside a man I'd never met. His hand around her waist. Her face tilted toward him like he was the center of her world. That was the night my heart didn't just break. It froze. I didn't yell. I didn't text. I didn't drown in anger. Instead, I took a long breath and whispered to myself, "You want to stay friends, Mel? Fine. Let's be friends." But this time, I'd play by my own rules. And that was the beginning of a revenge she'd never forget. The first few weeks after I moved out felt like walking through fog. My apartment was quiet, too clean, too still. I'd stare at the ceiling some nights, wondering if Melissa ever thought about me, or if she was too busy laughing with the man from that rooftop photo. But anger has a strange way of turning into clarity. And clarity, it's dangerous when given to someone who's been underestimated. I started focusing on myself. I picked up extra repair jobs, hit the gym before sunrise, and began rebuilding the version of me that existed before Melissa chipped away at my confidence. I stopped checking her social media. I didn't ask mutual friends about her. I simply disappeared from the narrative she'd built, and that silence made her uneasy. A few weeks later, Julia called. Her voice sounded hesitant at first. "Hey, Liam, I hope I'm not crossing a line, but you doing okay?" "Yeah," I said, actually better than I thought I'd be. She laughed softly. "That's good. Because Melissa's been acting strange lately. She keeps bringing you up, asking if I've seen you around, like she's nervous about something." I could hear it in Julia's tone. She cared, not out of pity, but because she'd seen the truth long before I had. So when she invited me to grab coffee the next day, I agreed. Julia showed up in a cozy cream sweater and jeans. No designer labels, no pretentious attitude. Just real. We talked for hours about life, work, disappointment, and how betrayal changes people. She'd gone through her own heartbreak years ago, and somehow, her empathy didn't feel forced. It felt earned. As we talked, I noticed things I hadn't seen before. The way she listened without interrupting. The quiet strength behind her kindness. The subtle warmth in her smile. It wasn't romantic, not yet, but it was healing. That night, when I got home, Melissa had texted me for the first time in weeks. Hope you're doing all right, Liam. Remember, we're still friends, okay? I stared at the screen, then replied simply, always, Mel. Just living life. She had no idea what that meant. Over the next month, Julia and I started seeing each other more. Sometimes for dinner, sometimes for long walks near the waterfront. What began as shared pain slowly turned into something deeper, something honest. We didn't rush it. We just let it grow naturally. Then one evening, we went to a small restaurant by the harbor. As we waited for our food, Julia asked, "Do you still love her?" I thought about that for a while before answering. I don't think I love who she became. I just miss who she used to be. Julia nodded. That's fair. People change when they stop valuing loyalty. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Because she was right. Melissa didn't just cheat on me physically. She cheated emotionally long before. She'd stopped showing up in small ways, the kind that build trust every day. When I drove Julia home that night, she turned to me and said, "For what it's worth, I think you deserve someone who actually sees you." That line stayed with me. A few weeks later, the universe decided to test my composure. I was at a local grocery store, picking up some things for dinner, when I heard her voice, Melissa's. Bright, sharp, familiar. I turned and saw her standing by the produce section, phone in hand, laughing. She looked different, tanner, thinner, but somehow emptier. When she spotted me, her smile faltered. "Liam." "Wow, hey," she said awkwardly, walking over. "You look good. New haircut." "Yeah, new everything, actually," I said casually. We exchanged a few polite words, but I could feel her eyes studying me. She wasn't used to this version of me, the calm, confident one who didn't flinch under her gaze. She tried to fish for details. "So, seeing anyone?" she asked with forced lightness. I smiled. "Yeah, actually, you might know her." Her expression froze. "Oh," I didn't say the name. I didn't need to. The tension between us said enough. I grabbed my bag, paid for my things, and walked out before she could ask more. By the time I got home, my phone was buzzing nonstop, Melissa's number flashing again and again. I let it ring. Then a message appeared. "Are you serious, Liam? With Julia? My best friend?" "That's messed up." I typed back. "You said we're friends, right? Friends support each other's happiness." She didn't reply. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching city lights shimmer in the distance. I felt no guilt, no shame, just quiet satisfaction. For once, the power had shifted. The woman who once treated me like an afterthought was now the one losing sleep. Julia and I kept things simple. We didn't flaunt our connection, but we didn't hide it either. People eventually started noticing, and word spread fast. And when Melissa's mutual friends began asking her questions, she started unraveling. She called again a few days later, her tone no longer polite. "So, what? You're dating her to get back at me?" I took a slow breath. "No, Melissa. I'm dating someone who actually cares. You were the one who said we should stay friends. I just took you seriously." There was silence on the line. Then, almost a whisper, "Friends don't do this." I smiled. Friends also don't lie, cheat, or drain each other's bank accounts. Guess we have different definitions. When I hung up, I didn't feel vindictive. I felt free. For the first time in years, I wasn't living under her control. But the story wasn't over yet. Because the real revenge, Melissa's public unraveling, hadn't even begun. Melissa had always been the type of woman who needed attention like oxygen. When I stopped giving it, she started choking on her own silence. A week after our last call, I began noticing little signs that she was trying to sneak her way back into my life. She'd accidentally like my photos, comment on old posts, even show up at places she knew I went, like the same gym, the same cafe on Sundays. The funny part? I wasn't even angry anymore. Watching her try to crawl back into a story she wrote me out was almost poetic. Meanwhile, Julia and I had quietly grown closer. What started as companionship had turned into something real, something built on trust instead of convenience. She'd come by after work, help me cook dinner in my tiny kitchen, and laugh about how burnt my garlic bread always turned out. Her laughter filled the apartment with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. One night, as we watched a movie on the couch, she leaned her head against my shoulder and whispered, "You know she's losing her mind over this, right?" I smiled faintly. "Yeah, but she's not my problem anymore." Julia looked up at me, eyes soft but sharp. "That's exactly what drives her crazy. You stop being her problem." She was right. Melissa had built her life around control. And now, the person she'd once manipulated effortlessly wasn't even playing the game anymore. A few days later, I got a text from an old friend, Mark, who still worked at Melissa's company. "Bro, you won't believe this. She's been storming around the office. Word is, Derek dumped her." I chuckled to myself. The same man she risked her marriage for had finally realized that cheating with someone's wife doesn't make her loyal. It makes her dangerous. I didn't respond to Mark. I didn't need to. Karma had finally remembered her address. That night, Julia and I went out to a quiet rooftop lounge overlooking the city lights. The place was calm, intimate, nothing like the crowded parties Melissa used to drag me to. We talked about everything except her. It was peaceful, genuine. Halfway through the evening, though, I noticed a familiar face walk in. Melissa. She spotted us instantly. Her smile froze midair when she saw Julia's hand resting in mine. I could see it, the panic in her eyes, the desperate attempt to act unbothered. She walked straight to the bar, ordered a drink, and started talking loudly, pretending not to care. Julia looked uncomfortable, but I just said quietly, "Let her watch." For the first time, the roles were reversed. I wasn't the one standing in the shadows, wondering why I wasn't enough. She was. Later, as Julia excused herself to take a call, Melissa made her move. She approached the table, her perfume hitting before her words did. "So, this is it," she said with a sarcastic laugh. "Trading up for my best friend." I stayed calm. "You traded me first, remember? I just stopped pretending it was temporary." She scoffed. "You're doing this to hurt me." "No," I said softly. "I'm doing this to heal me." Her lips trembled, half rage, half regret. "You're not the same person anymore." I leaned back, meeting her gaze. "Exactly." Before she could reply, Julia returned. Melissa's eyes darted between us, and for a second, I saw something she'd never shown before, fear. Not of losing me, but of realizing she'd already lost control of the story. She turned and left without another word. That night, Melissa's mask began to crack publicly. A few co-workers unfollowed her after she posted cryptic stories online, passive-aggressive captions about fake friends and ungrateful men. It was obvious who she meant. The more she tried to play the victim, the more people stopped sympathizing. Meanwhile, Julia kept me grounded. "Don't gloat," she told me one evening. "Let her destroy herself." And she did. 2 weeks later, Melissa called me again, her voice calmer this time. "Can we talk? Just for closure." I agreed to meet at a cafe. When she arrived, she looked different, less polished, more human. Her makeup couldn't hide the exhaustion beneath her eyes. She sat down across from me, fidgeting with her coffee cup. "I made mistakes," she began softly. "I thought I wanted freedom, but all I did was lose everything that mattered." I stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I see you with Julia, and I realize I had something good, and I ruined it. I'm sorry, Liam." For a moment, I almost pitied her, but then I remembered every lonely night I'd spent wondering where she was while she was finding herself in someone else's arms. "I forgive you," I said finally, "but that doesn't mean I want you back." Her eyes filled with tears she quickly wiped away. "So that's it. That's it," I said gently. "You wanted to be friends." I took that literally. "Friend move on, right?" She gave a bitter laugh, realizing the irony. When I left the cafe, I felt lighter, not because I'd hurt her, but because I'd finally stopped carrying the weight of her choices. A week later, I got another text from Mark. "Guess who just quit?" "Melissa. She's leaving town. Said she needs a fresh start." I stared at the message for a long moment. There was no satisfaction left, just peace. Her world had finally mirrored the emptiness she'd created for me. That night, Julia came over, bringing takeout and her usual lighthearted energy. We ate on the balcony, watching the city glow. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, for the first time in a long time, I really am." Julia smiled and reached for my hand. "Then maybe it's time to stop looking back." I looked at her, the woman who'd been there when everything fell apart, and smiled. "You're right. The past already punished itself." Months passed, and life finally began to feel steady again. The ache that used to live in my chest was gone, replaced by something calmer, like the soft hum of peace after a long storm. Julia and I didn't rush into labels or grand declarations. We just built something solid, something honest. She became my confidant, my calm after chaos. Every morning when she made coffee and hum off-key to old songs, I'd think, this is what love's supposed to feel like. Not drama, not games, just safety. Melissa, on the other hand, had all but vanished. She deleted her social media accounts, left her job, and from what I'd heard, moved to a smaller city to reset her life. A few mutual friends mentioned that she was struggling financially, unable to keep up the lifestyle she once flaunted. Her new freedom came with unpaid bills, a broken reputation, and silence from the same people who used to orbit her. One evening, while sorting through some old boxes, I came across an unopened envelope. It was addressed to both of us, our old mortgage company. The sight of her name beside mine felt strange, almost foreign. I opened it out of curiosity, and a wry smile crept across my face. The letter confirmed that the final payment on our house had been processed by me. See, when we separated, Melissa assumed I'd still help cover her expenses as a friend. I hadn't. I'd quietly refinanced the house in my name before moving out. She hadn't read the fine print, too distracted by her newfound freedom. When she realized months later that the house legally belonged to me alone, she'd already moved out. That was the revenge, not a grand gesture, not revenge through humiliation, but through patience. She'd walked away from stability for excitement, only to find herself without both. A few weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. "Liam." Her voice trembled. "Melissa," I said evenly. "Been a while. I heard about the house," she said. "I didn't know." "You didn't care to know," I cut in gently. "You just assumed I'd always keep paying for your comfort." She went quiet for a long time before whispering, "I miss the person I was when I was with you." "That person," I said softly, "was real. You just stopped being her." There was nothing cruel in my tone, just truth. And sometimes, that hurts more than anger ever could. "I hope you're happy," she said finally. "I am," I replied. "You told me we should stay friends, remember? Well, you taught me that friends don't drain each other. They help each other grow. So, thank you for the lesson." She didn't respond. Only the faint sound of her breathing lingered before the call ended. That night, Julia and I sat on the same balcony where I used to nurse heartbreak. The city stretched before us, lively, forgiving, and full of new chances. She leaned her head on my shoulder and asked quietly, "Do you ever wish things had gone differently?" I thought about it, then shook my head. "If they had, I never would have met you. And she never would have learned what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." Julia smiled. "That's the best kind of revenge, you know." "What's that?" I asked. "Moving on without bitterness. Living better than the person who hurt you." I laughed softly. "Then I guess I already won." We sat there for a while, watching the skyline fade into night. The pain, the betrayal, the loneliness, it had all built something unexpected, strength. Melissa had wanted space, freedom, and friendship. In the end, she got exactly what she asked for, just not the way she imagined. And me? I got peace. The rare, kind you only earn after walking through fire without letting it burn your soul.